Wow. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. So we have 3 minutes to go and then we begin our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're welcome. You're welcome. And if you have someone who you know would be interested in this show, would benefit from, you know, this discussion, the impact of COVID-19 on parenting today, on parents and children, please go ahead and share the link. We still have 2 minutes before we begin officially. So please go ahead and share the link. Invite your friends, invite families to come and join in the fun. Yes, happy Sunday from US. I see you, Ayanka. You're welcome. God bless you. Share the link and invite others to come and join us. It's going to be an exciting evening. Yes, the panel is ready. We are all ready. I'm waiting for you. Looking forward to having a great, great time with you. And you should know that, we are doing this together. It's a live discussion. So please go ahead and use the comment section, to write your comments. If someone says something which you agree with, you give the person a thumbs up. If you have a question, you write it in the comment box so that it will be so interactive and we all are going to benefit from this time together. Okay, so I'm really, really happy that you're here. Yes. Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm waiting. In a few seconds, it's 6 o'clock, and then we begin. German time. No second too early, no second too late. So as soon as it's 6 o'clock on my screen, I'll begin. Tack, 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 tack. Meanwhile, go on sharing the link and inviting others. Welcome, 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 everyone. Okay, it's 6 p.m. now. Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Tinzo, and I welcome you to this, our live discussion today. Our topic of today is a very, very important one, a very, very practical one. What is the impact, or what impact has COVID-19 had on parenting? What impact is COVID-19 having on parenting? And to discuss it with me today, I have 4 wonderful, inspiring guests, panelists. They're all parents, so they know what they're talking about. I don't want to waste much of your time. I know that you're here for business, and I'm also, here for business. So let's go straight into it. I'm going to bring in the panelists now, and then we get things rolling. So our first panelist is joining us all the way from UK. She's a wonderful mom. She's a teacher, and she's my classmate from secondary school. So I'm really, really happy to have her here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Betty Chongwang. Hi,
Hello,
Betty.
Laura. Hello.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much
You're
for having
welcome.
me.
God, God bless you. All
Thank
right.
you.
So we're going to get the next person. You know, we can't have just women discussing, right? It's always important to have a dad on board. And this person is, he wears so many hats and he's an amazing person, but he's most importantly an amazing dad. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. Joy Alemazo.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome,
much.
Joy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Yes,
invitation.
no, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. It's an honor for us having you here today. Dr. Joy's son just turned 18 a few days ago, so he's in celebration mode. And you taking the time to come and be with us today is a big, big sacrifice. We thank you so much for that.
Oh,
All right, our next guest is a beautiful sister of mine. She's also an educationalist. Yes. So let's welcome to the panel Rebecca Muller. So
Hello.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This technique is not easy. So Rebecca, you're welcome. And
Thank
please,
you
before we
so
get the
much.
next disruption, let's just bring in our final panelist, Mrs. Tutu Vesterhoff. You're welcome, Tutu.
Thank you so much, Laura, and hello, everybody
Oh
else.
my God. So
Hello.
we are complete. This is a dream team. I'm so happy that you're all here. You all made the time to be with us. Big sacrifice. And of course, our audience are also happy that you're here. So I will just give you the chance to introduce yourselves, because definitely there's no one who can introduce you better than yourself, right? So let's just begin with Betsy. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Laura, and thank you so much for organizing this. And as you introduced earlier, I am your classmate from secondary school in Cameroon. And yeah, we've known each other for a very long time. So it's really an honor for me to be here. I will tell, for anybody who, our friends who will not know me, or people who may not know who I am. So I went to school with Laura, but I was born in London, went to school in Cameroon, but today I'm living in Manchester with my husband and 4 children. And I'm currently on the career break as a teacher. So I'm at home now as a full-time mom, looking after a young family. So I've got a 3-year-old, I've got a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So my hands are fairly full. So 4 years ago, when I had my youngest, she was soon before, I decided to take time off to be a full-time mom. And this is something that wasn't easy to make, wasn't an easy decision to take. So, like I said earlier, I was born in London. My mom used to work as a nurse. She too faced the same challenges like I am facing today, and decided that she would send us back home to get an education. So I ended up, so I'm British born, but I grew up in Cameroon, and I've spent half my life in Cameroon, half my life in the UK. So
wow.
The challenges of bringing up a family here, having been brought up in a different culture, for parents like me everywhere, it's a big challenge. And we're having to navigate a new situation. We're having to chart a new path. We're having to find new strategies to fit in, to just basically try and raise children in an environment that's alien to us. So it presents all kinds of challenges. And that's what I'm here to talk about, and to hopefully share my experiences with people who may relate, take something out of it, and I'm also here to learn from the panel and from the people who may be asking us questions. So thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Betsy. So you come, Betsy, yes. So you come with the perfect foundation for this discussion today. So let's move over to Dr. Joy Alimazon. Please, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Laura. I'm Joy Alimazon. I'm originally from Cameroon. I'm living in Germany, in a small city called Schwäbisch Gmünd in the southern part of Germany near the Black Forest with my family. And I was so happy to receive this invitation because for me, I'm taking up from where Betty just ended saying, coming to learn. I'm coming to learn from the others because parenting is one of the greatest challenging tasks we have. I always tell my colleagues when I'm leaving work that I've just finished with my part-time job. I'm going home now for the main.
For the full-time job.
Yes, for the full-time job. And I say it as a joke, but that is the fact. Because even when the other things we are doing is centered around being good parents for our children, for their future, and for our society as a role model. So that's why I find parenting one of, I think it's the first and the most important activity that human has, that we have as human, from my point of view. And so I'm so happy. Today I just want to talk as a father.
Yes.
And I'll leave it at that because I'm happy to be here as a father and to be joined with so many wonderful mothers. I'm looking forward to learning from you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joy. And this thing you said is powerful. I just finished my part-time job and now I'm going to my full-time job because it's a job that never expires. Even when you're at work, you are still doing that full-time job, isn't it? Thank you so much. So over to you, Rebecca. Just tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Laura, and thank you so much for having us here. Thank you for planning this all. I'm Rebecca Najeremola. I live in Stahnsdorf near Berlin currently. I'm originally from Kenya and a mother of 4, 3 adults and 1 teenager. And I'm a caterer and party service business owner in Berlin as well. I do cook and all that. And, you know, part of the parenting I do is while I'm in the kitchen cooking for my clients, I always remember that my family also has to eat, my children has to eat. So that is part of the parenting that we carry along with us when we do our part-time job, as our dear brother, Dr. Joy, has just put it out. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Rebecca. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, so Tutu, over to you.
Thank you so much, Laura. And as everybody has said, thank you for having us today. My name is Tutu Westerhoff. I live in Cologne, and I'm a mother of 3 children, 2 boys and a daughter. I used to own a daycare for under 3-year-olds. So raising children and being with children is a main part of my life and something that I've always enjoyed and still do enjoy. And I'm very happy to be here today. Besides that, I have spent a lot of my life doing music and doing many things that are creative. I am currently I run a brand called Momentous Box, where I design lifestyle accessories and home textiles. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tutu. Thank you so much, my wonderful team. If I can just read one of the comments for you. Betty, someone says, wow, Betty, that's an awesome decision. Full-time mom, respect. And another person said something, parenting is really a full-time job. Yes, you got this. So we are doing well. We are on the right track. So I think we'll just go into our first question, which is the question of the day. What impact has COVID-19 had on families? So from your own perspective, what are the positive and the negatives, you know? So Betty, can you just go ahead, please?
Yes, this is one that was, to begin with, because I was already at home with my children, and we'd already had kind of a routine with me being at home. They were used to my routine, and I was used to taking them to school, bringing them back. My whole program really revolves around what they do. So lockdown, when it happened, didn't impact me as much. I was actually it was easy for me to get into, easy for me to just restructure their life around just being at home. So that actually is the bit that I didn't find challenging at all. I actually did enjoy that bit to a large extent, but obviously it just meant, on the other hand, it meant that the time I used to have when they had gone to school to run around, do chores, do things for them, I didn't have that time anymore. So it was full on, full time, 24/7. If they get up in the night, my little one didn't sleep well. So that in itself was very challenging. No time off at all. But because I'd already been used to being at home, and I'd also had the skill of being a teacher and teaching children as young as my youngest to older children in high school, I could actually draw in a lot of those skills to get them engaged in some kind of learning, whatever that was. And a lot of the times during the first lockdown, I actually tried not to be too rigid with them. I actually relaxed, and the weather was nice, so I let them play out a lot. I let them experiment with whatever it is. I really let them take the lead. Put it that way. It was very chaotic in our house, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed not having to get up and run to school, not having to rush back to take them here, there, and everywhere, to this activity, that activity. That was relaxing. I found it really gave me something to time to actually just slow down and really enjoy having my kids around. On the other side, it became very challenging as time went on to keep them all engaged. I have children from 12-year-old to a 3-year-old. It's just impossible between the garden and the living room and their bedrooms. There's only so much you can do. So it wasn't, they were on top of each other, we were fighting, arguing. yeah, it got out of hand.
Yeah.
So that was challenging. And yeah, we had to find new strategies. We had to find new ways to deal with things. I had to draw on a lot of things that I learned from growing up myself. When I was actually 6 years old, there was a coup d'etat in Cameroon when the new president was coming into power. And at the time, we lived in the town in Yaoundé where it was all happening. And one Sunday afternoon, we'd gone to church, and then we heard shootings. Before we knew it, my mother was dragging us under the car. Within a few days, someone was knocking on our door saying it's too risky for you to stay now. You've got to go. So we went up. I was off school for probably a year or so. And I lived with my mom in this big compound with other families. And it was probably one of the best times in my life, to be fair. And that was something that I actually drew on when it came to this lockdown. And I actually thought, wow, this is life repeating itself again. And my children, some of them are similar age to what I was when I experienced that. So that was my first experience of what I call a lockdown. And I had to draw on those things and really remember how much I enjoyed it and how relaxed I found it, not being so rigid. So it did really change my perspective of parenting in that respect. On the negative side, the second lockdown, the kids had to be structured with their learning, with their computer screen time. They spent too much time on the screens and not enough activity. So I found that really difficult. It was really hard to convince them or motivate them to do activities. So we had to be very conscious about getting them out of the house, not spending so much in front of the screen. And yeah, and also just being involved in their learning. So basically I became a full-time teacher, teaching them, monitoring everything they were doing from start to finish, and as well as doing all the housework. So everything was just full on, absolutely full on.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Betty. Thank you so much. I love what you said about, being able to relax a little bit, because again, you could, in the lockdown, you could partition your time, you could schedule your time the way you wanted it. But on the other hand, it resulted to the children being kind of addicted to the screen, because at some moment everything was revolving around the screen. But we're going to get to that later on in a bit in the show. So Dr. Joy, what do you think, what impact has COVID-19 had on parenting today? What do you think from your perspective?
Exactly. I'm happy I've already learned a lot also from what my sister has just said. There is the impact that it has had to each one of us, and the impact that it has had on those around us and on the society. Starting from my experience, I can say that there are a lot of positive things I've been able to take out of this. Living in Schwäbisch Gmünd and working in Berlin, 600 kilometers away, having to stay the whole week from Monday to Fridays, or sometimes Monday to Thursday in Berlin. With the COVID situation or the coming of the pandemic, it changed a lot of things, because all of a sudden the ministry allowed us to work from the house with the home office role. This enabled us to have a lot of quality time. So I was there in the evening with my family, which is something very wonderful. To be able to have that all the time, it's like luxury. So what I think is that I'll look at it from the economic side of the economic aspect and impact, the social and emotional impact. And from my own part, I will start with the social and emotional impact. I think that it helped. You said it at the beginning that my son just turned 18. I have 3 kids, 18, 14, and 7. And you realize, with the adolescents' life here in Europe, and maybe also in Cameroon, we went through that. They spend a lot of time outside. And here it was, at one point, my wife and I were thinking that it was too much all the time. Our son is meeting with friends. But with COVID, we had time to spend together. We could go for a walk in the forest. We could do a lot of things together, which was so wonderful. I mean, on the other hand, it reduced the space, the individual space that sometimes we need as individuals, as parents, as children. They need their space and time. That was not so much possible. But the positive side of spending time together, structuring your program, with families, with spending family time. That was so immense, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm grateful to God for that. Then, looking at the economic side of it, it's unfortunate many parents have lost their jobs. And it means that families have been affected in a way. If you lose your job, you are also going to be unable to fend for your family, to provide the needs of your children. And this can be very frustrating. This can lead to depression and so on. And so those are some of the situations that some families are going through, which is very, very, very painful.
Yeah.
And then we also have situation of taking care of our children at home. It is so wonderful. We thank God for some of us who have been able to go through this with our children, supervising them. At the same time, it is very, very challenging because some parents don't have good, the digital divide is also in Europe. If you don't have access to the devices which you need to for your children, even if when the government is providing it, you need the good internet connection at home. And this has caused a lot of problems in homes, I think. And then putting some of us, parents, taking up the role of teachers. When a teacher is teaching your child and the difference when you yourself is trying to explain things to them. So those are challenges we have faced. Like I said, it has its positive side, it has its negative side, but in most cases, if the economic aspect is not so much affected, we have a lot to profit from it, because all of a sudden we have that time to share together, to consolidate our relationship, to learn how to overcome conflicts, to accept one another's weakness and get along with it positively and look for solutions. In the past, I think that there were times that maybe if the elderly child is disappointed, he will just look for a way to go and meet with friends. If you cannot go out to meet with friends now, you have to solve the problem at home with your siblings.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of things that have happened positively and negatively, but I think for family spending time together, it's a bit very positive. You look at the economic side, the economic aspect of it, employment and so on, and that will also impact the emotional side, the social side, either negatively or positively. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Joy. And there have been really interesting comments from the viewers. Thank you all so much for your comments. Please keep them coming. And if you have questions, also please feel free to put them in so that if we get the chance, we're going to fit that in. One of the comments that I read here, which made me smile, was that we have actually learned to appreciate the work of teachers, isn't it? I remember how it's so easy to grumble about the teachers. They've not done this, they've not done that. But I remember when I started homeschooling in March last year, I was going crazy. I have 5 kids, I was going crazy. And every day I thank God for the teachers. And believe me, when schools resumed after that, I had a different respect for teachers. So that's definitely one of the things that we've learned. And talking about quality time for the family, that is, that's on everyone's mouth. We have all experienced it, and we can't thank God enough for that. So, dear Sister Rebecca, over to you. What impact do you think COVID-19 has had on parenting today?
Well, as my colleagues have already said, we've had a lot of positive effects from COVID, despite the fact that COVID-19 is not quite a positive thing. Very good thing has come out of it, and we thank God for that. And we've actually learned to appreciate each other, not just the parents and children, but also the spouses. Husbands and wives have learned to appreciate, love, and accommodate each other. And as we all know that when the atmosphere between the parents is quite conducive, then the children also follow suit, and there'll be a lot of peace and calmness in the family. Unlike when parents have to go to work and they're rushing between traffic jam and work stress, and children at home cooking for mothers, cleaning up, and making sure that homeworks are done on time, and getting people ready for school in the following morning. As our sister Betty put up, she was so happy that she didn't have to drive some guys to school and back, So apart from all that, I would also like to say that the negative part of it has been that the children having to stay home mostly and in front of these laptops and all these gadgets, name them because there are many, they tend to isolate themselves. And eventually, when it's time to go back to school, you find out that kids are developing some kind of anxieties. They're becoming like not willing to be in the community once more, in the school group. I mean, like some would even go to school and would cry. They would really cry because they're not comfortable to be around people anymore, because all the social media is full of social distance. They'll come close to somebody, they will infect you with COVID virus and all that. So when the kids go to school and they have to sit next to each other and they have to talk to each other, so it affected them in a great deal. And that's why as parents, we're supposed also to make sure that we talk to our kids and remind them that despite this situation, when they go out, they should really, yes, keep the distance, but know that they have to continue living with other humans and other children as they used to before, because this has affected them so much. And also some other kids now tend to rely more on social media for communication. And remember, in this current world we are in right now, where children, especially here in Europe, where children are actually taught to be everything is for me, myself, and I. Work hard for myself, do the best to be the best in school for myself. Sitting home and just using this social media for everything has really isolated them and given them even more power for this me, myself, and I. So it is really good that we tend to remind them that despite the fact that they have to sit home and do this, it's not the end of the world, and things are going to come back to normal at one point. And it might not be the normal that we know, but it will be the new normal, which is where we're all heading at. And yeah, on the Christian part of it, children have missed really going to church, but we're coming to that at a certain point. Yes. But yes, so I'll leave it
at that. We'll get to that. Thank you so very much, Rebecca. When you were talking at the end, I was just thinking about this selfie generation. You know how it is, right? In our days, when you needed to get a picture of yourself, you asked someone to do it for you. But today, we are hearing of selfies. So you don't even need someone even to make a picture of yourself. And that just keeps pushing us into that zone of selfishness, But like you said, we need to come out of it. We need to fight against it. We need to educate our children that, things are going to get better and nobody can live as an island. All right. So let us hear from you, Tutu. What impact has COVID-19 had on parenting?
Yeah, Sister Rebecca, you mentioned this me, myself, and I, and that's something that I think is very, very important, because we have to understand that COVID-19 is not a party. Yeah, it has to do with a lot of fear, a lot of worry. Yes, we worry about our children's school, whether they're doing the right things or not. We worry about lives that are being lost, jobs that are being lost. That means when they're on these social media platforms, they're absorbing even more fear from all angles, So I think as parents, our main job should be right now to keep the family stable, to let our children understand that despite what's happening out there, that we are family. That's where the word family should really come alive at this time during COVID-19 in all aspects, whether, mom and dad lose their job, our neighbor dies, or whoever it is dies, things are not working well in school. We have to understand our role as family. And that's the most important thing, this bond. And if that's there, I think that a lot of the other problems will solve themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
And social media, as I say, that's where we really have to be careful, because a lot of negative messages, a lot of theories are being passed on, blown to the children, and they get this information at a young age a lot of times. Yeah. So that's why we should be very, very careful. But I still think that, as I said before, family is a main word for me, and home. Home is very, very important, because that's why it's nice to make your home look at least nice, because we spend so much time here. Some even work at home. School is at home. Everything is done at home now, right? And so as parents, we should make sure that our home is well organized and a happy place for our children to live in, even for the teenagers, so they don't, feel like they need to go out to their friends. Sit down and make a cinema at home, or, cook something nice and play cards together. This family and home life should be more active, because that's the only thing that's going to save us and our children. That's my opinion right now. Okay.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tutu. Yes, Tutu is all about the home. And even in her business, Momentos Box, it's all about the home. So if you need tips, in making your home really a nice environment, definitely get in touch with Tutu. You also talked about social media and its dangers, and that is going to be our next question, which I'm going to direct to you, Tutu, and to Betsy. So today, homeschooling, there is homeschooling, home office and everything. So the internet is no more a luxury, but a necessity. Children need it for learning, and stuff like that. However, like you said already, there are lots of dangers. Hidden dangers on the internet. So how do we help our children to find that balance, getting the best of the internet, but at the same time protecting them from the dangers of the internet? What would you say about that?
First of all, I will say it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy, because as a parent, telling your child you can't, be on the internet, on that, you're the bad parent from the word go. So the best thing to do is inform yourself and know exactly what platforms they use, and know what other people are in these platforms. That's really, really, really important. You just don't leave them. And depending on child's age, I check. You have to be a parent. Some are young. Check the messages that they receive, the messages that they send. It's not like you're being a spy, but it's parenting, because they don't know. Even we ourselves as grown-ups do not know a lot of these things that's going on there. So you have to make sure you monitor your children. First, as I said, know the apps that they use, check the apps that they use, and definitely give them, limit their times they're on social media, depending on the age, I say. You have to make sure you don't treat your 7-year-old like you treat your 10-year-old, like you treat your 16-year-old, because that will not work. Yeah. Check and make sure they use social media moderately. And the last thing, check yourselves too, because we are the role models. Depending on what we do, how much time we spend, our children might not even believe a word we're saying. When we say, oh, you're always on your garage, you're always on your machine, turn it up, and you're always, mom and dad are always the same. So we have to be a role model. Don't use your mobile phone when you're eating on the table. Just don't do it. There are times for it and times that you don't use it. Simple as that.
Wow. Short and to the point. Thank you so much, Tutu. And I really love what you said about being a role model. When we were growing up, we used to hear our parents and even some teachers say, like a joke, do what I say, not what I do. Or just do it because I said it. But that it might have worked at that time, when we were growing up, but it doesn't work anymore today. These children are way too advanced for such answers. So you need to be a role model. And if you really need your phone to be on your phone for work and stuff like that, then you need to take the time to explain it to them. Just saying, do it because I said it, it doesn't work anymore. Thank you so much, Tutu. Betty, what do you have to say about that?
Yes, thank you, Tutu. I really like the idea, as you've just said, not the idea, but the that we have to be role models for these things. And for us, actually, for many of us, it's actually a new territory as well. We're having to learn so much about technology where it's a novelty for many of us. I mean, Facebook, that's just one of the, that's really for older generation now, because the young kids have something else. There's so much in it that even for us, we are still learning. I'm still learning how to put my device away when I have something else more pressing to do, learning to prioritize, to put it down. And yeah, I have a little rule in the house too. Yeah, no mobile phones on the table when we're eating. That's a no-no. So that in a way, just measures to try and limit the use and encourage physical interaction, because like we have mentioned, we are just being drawn so much into ourselves. It's very isolating. We're not communicating with each other. We're not even noticing what's going on around us. And that's very dangerous. We're human beings, we're social human beings. We're there, we pick up cues by interacting. The devices put a barrier to that. And that in itself is just really damaging. It's just cutting off your social interaction, withdrawing into yourself. And if you're prone to depression, prone to, dangerous the destructive behavior, that will definitely drive you into that kind of space even further. So yes, and this brings us to the point of mental health. It's so important. It is one of those things that we have to really think about how we put measures in place to, not just for the children, for us as well. I also say this for myself, for us as well. I'm consciously having to think about this myself. So our children haven't had, my 12-year-old is the first one of our children to get a phone. And he only got a phone when he was as he was going to secondary school. But all his friends from the age of maybe when he was in year 4, 5, primary school, all had phones. So there was that peer pressure. But we had to explain to him that he doesn't need it now. I walk them to school, I bring them back home. I'm with them the whole time, and I can actually see. So he doesn't really need that device. But when he got to secondary school and he had to walk further and further away from home, he needed a phone for safety reasons. He needed a phone because that is crucial. We need to be in touch. Whatever happens, he needs to be able to ring us. So he got a phone, and then he's using the phone to communicate with his friends. Again, we had to have discussions about that. What sort of platforms they ask us before they can subscribe to any platforms. We monitor that greatly, and it's not something that we accept, even if what we really want to emphasize to them is that just because your friends have it does not mean that you have to have it. If you don't need it, it's not necessary. You will get a device when you need it, but you are not going to subscribe to any peer pressure, and your friends are not going to be deciding what we give to you and what devices we buy for you. So they have learned to understand that those are our boundaries. We will not be buying, don't care what version of iPad, whatever their friends have. No, you will get it when it's your time and when you need it. And technology is never going to go away for them. In their education, as a teacher, I've been using technology way before all this even came along. It's very much part of the classroom. It's very much part of what we do. Interactive teaching, going online, doing research with the children is something that's very much part of the education system and has been for the past decade or so since internet came along. And it's something that actually, I think COVID, schools catching up with online learning, distance learning was something that was long overdue because it's actually needed. There are some children for whom this is the only platform through which they might get to study or learn, and schools have been very slow with catching up with catching up with technology. And some children have fallen behind as a result of this, especially certain children with maybe special needs. So schools have actually, this period has actually helped taken education several decades ahead. And that's the future. That's the way it's going to be. So technology is here to stay for them. We have to now teach them, educate them how to use it safely. It's not something that will ever go away. And we have to keep on top of it ourselves. Because I work with teenagers, and pretty much you can hear discussions about what platforms they're using. So I really pick up on those cues quite a lot. So I know what platforms are going on. I come home, I Google it, research it, see what's being said about it. And before my kids come to talk to me about it, I already know what they're talking about. When they talk, they follow YouTubers and come and mention names to me. I say, yeah, I go and Google them myself. Oh, mommy, do you know this person? He's a famous this and that. I say, oh yeah, I do know them, even if I don't. I Google them and I find out what they're following, who these people are, what their values are, what they're saying, are they even real? So all those little tips, I think, would really help, because technology is not going anywhere.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. So what should I say? Technology is here to stay. So I think that's one thing that we need to take in mind, and know that technology is here to stay. Because if we keep fooling ourselves that maybe we can do without it, it's a lie. It's here to stay. So we need to move forward. So what do we do next? And I love what you said about doing your research. We need to be on top of the game with what the children are doing. It takes a lot of time. And this is a note to myself, because I don't even keep up with that. Yeah. But we need to take the time to find out what these children are doing. When they say that they have a program they want to use, my boys, they're always talking about Scratch. And mommy was always telling them, don't use Scratch. But I never took the time to find out what Scratch was all about, until the last time Jordan had to do a project for school to make a video, and he used the Scratch program to design his video. That is when I knew, he can also use it for learning. So maybe there are other things that they can do with the Scratch, but when you know what the platform is, then you can better orientate the child on how to use that platform, because just saying don't use it, it's not going to work. So better give the limitations and show him, okay, focus on this area. So my next question is going to be for Rebecca, but before I come to you, Becky, I just want to ask a question to Tutu. Someone asked, and I don't want it to go away, because it's in line with what you said. So she says, in the society we find ourselves in, both parents have to fully participate in parenting. My question is, how can I think this one I'm going to ask to Dr. Joy later on. Sorry, she had a different question. Let me just get to it, please. So she was asking that, yes, the stability of the family remains the solution to a lot of issues here. But how can we keep the family stable? Tutu, can you just say that in a nutshell, please? How can we keep the family stable?
All you have to do is sit down for yourself with your spouse and decide what your values are. What are your values? What is it do you want your family to stand for? That's the main thing. So is it honesty, togetherness? Is it being friendly? Is it prayerful? What is it that's important? Once you know that, and that's what you go by. And you have to understand that your children are not you. We can do all that we can. We can do the best that we can, but not everybody is the way that you are. So some children might go this way, some might go this way. So once you do what you feel is right with your own mind, then, there's nothing else you can do. Yeah, that's the only thing that I can say to that.
Wonderful.
Know what your family.
Can I add a male voice to that?
Excuse me?
It's okay. I just wanted to know if I could add a male voice to that when you're finished.
Yes, please. Go ahead, John.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tutu. That is very important, sitting together and discussing and planning and setting the values. And from my experience and my observation, I think that also bearing the load together. I'm looking at this from the point of view of how we share responsibility at home, because sometimes the care jobs at home is always like it's the mother's job, and this is very, very tiring, exhausting. And if as parents we leave the care job for mothers alone in a society where mothers and fathers are all working, it will create it would destabilize the home, because a tiring mother coming from work, if you are the man and you have been at home, you could even, if you cannot prepare something, you could order something and set the table, so that when you need it, these are little things that create stability. Because I know that when you're tired, it's like there is this saying in English that an angry man is a hungry man is an angry man. I think a tired person also easily gets into conflict, easily gets irritated. That is why I think that sharing the workload at home, if one is cooking, the other one is looking at the children's educational plan, creating this stability, this harmony will really help us to get stability to a great extent. I think that is one of the experiences that I think I have, and I'm calling on us parents, mothers and fathers to make sure that we try to help assist one another, support one another in sharing the workload at home, because it is too much.
Yes, thank you so much, Joy. That's the question I actually wanted to direct to you, but you've answered it already. And yes, husbands and wives, mothers and dads, we need to do the work together. We need all hands on board. When we were growing up, our parents had, housemates, cousins, aunties, uncles who came around and they could give us a hand. But here, where we find ourselves, most of us here on this board are maybe in Europe, in the USA, we don't have anybody. We don't have anybody. So it is just us. And if we don't work together, if we don't put all our hands on the deck, then things are not going to work very well. So thank you so much for chipping in, Dr. Joy. Rebecca, I'm going to come to you now. And I just want to ask you, what role does Christianity, or do Christianity and religion play in parenting today, in this, this time of pandemic COVID-19? What role does that play? How can it, how can we integrate that into our parenting?
Thank you for the question. I'll start off by saying that in Proverbs chapter 13:24, it states that he who withholds abroad, he who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is careful to discipline him. That is written in the Bible. And we all know that the Bible also says that children are a blessing from God. So when God blesses us with these children, he allows us also to discipline them. And discipline does not mean just, as we call it in Swahili, kiboko, which is the real physical rod. No, it means it means disciplining by punishing them in other ways, taking off their gadgets and stuff like that. So yes, parents. Christianity plays a big role in bringing up our kids, because we get them from God, and in the ways of God are we supposed to train them up, and they will never depart. And that's also in Proverbs 22:6, where it says, train up a child in the way and he will never depart from it. So yes, with COVID-19 looming all over the place, it is best when parents really try to remind their kids, as I said before, that this is a passing time. It is not permanent. Life will come back to normality, no matter whether the kids are, whether you are able to go to church. Like in my own congregation, only 50 people are allowed per Sunday. And that means not everyone will come to church, but it doesn't mean that the kids should not be taught the Bibles at home. It doesn't mean that the kids should not be brought up in the ways of God, because that is the only way that will keep them intact. Pray with your children. Teach them to pray with them. Don't teach them and tell them, now go up to your room, pray and sleep. No. Teach them, sit down with them, pray with them, send them off to bed. That is a very practical Christian way of bringing your child. And as our sister Tutu had put on earlier on, we being the role models, we are supposed to live our lives as is expected of us biblically. We are supposed to live the Bible. And when we live the Bible, our children will see the example of it and they will follow us. Yes. Remember, the Lord uses discipline to reveal our sins to us. This is also how parents reveal the truth of our need for a savior to their children. So the same way you expect God to treat you is the same way you are supposed to treat your child. The same way you ask God questions, you know, why this and why that. And when your children come to ask you this question, please don't send them off. Like my pastor said my pastor on his sermon last week on Sunday, Pastor Frank William Jr., I hope you're listening. He said, don't tell your child, don't ask me questions, just do what I said, just as we said here before, because that's not the right way.
That's not the
We
right
need
way.
also to hear their opinions. We need to hear what they got to say. We need to know what is in their mind. The social media has so much information about COVID-19. Some of them are very true, some of them are very wrong. And if we don't talk to them about the reality, they will end up believing what is in the social media. And this really spoils them completely. It kills their morals. It makes them really go into the wrong venture of doing things, you know, and end up being the wrong person and not the child that you wanted him or her to be, because you allow the social media to teach your child and you're in the house with them. Now that there's COVID and we are in the house with them, let's sit with them, talk to them, listen to online services with them, explain things to them. Because Rebecca, the Sunday school teacher, is not there to physically explain it to your child as I normally do on Sundays. But you're home with this child. Answer their questions. Listen to them. Sometimes, like my daughter told me one day, Mama, when I come to you all the time, it's not because I want you to advise me or to tell me what to do, nor I even want your opinion. I just want you to hear. I just want you to listen to me. And at that particular moment, I realized something that I've been doing very wrong. Remember, I have big boys. I have adults in the house. So when my little one told me this, I asked myself, how have I been treating the others? They come to me, I'm so fast to tell them what they're not supposed to do. I'm so fast to tell them what they're supposed to do. I don't listen. So as parents, we are supposed to listen to our kids. In the same manner we go to God in prayers and we want God to hear our prayers, we should also listen to our kids when they talk to us. Because at the end of the day, praying is talking to God. And so when your child comes to talk to you, it's a kind of praying. Sometimes it's a cry for help. It's a cry for help. They need your help. But because, especially us African mothers, I'm sorry to say this, we are so fast in shutting them up and telling them which way. Please listen to your children. Hear their cries. And find out if they are done with their talking, then give your opinion. Give your advice. And please, not with a rod, with a disciplinary. Yes, and Sister Tutu in a moment. And please, don't be tough. Sometimes they come to you with some tough stuff that you want to open your eyes and ask, where did you get that from? Please shut up. Listen. Let them say it. And ask them in a polite manner, where did you hear it? Where did you get it from? Definitely they will explain it in a good way. But the moment you burst off, as we used to, they will shut down. They will shut down, they'll not talk to you, but they'll go to the media. Let us not forget that media has every answer to everything. And if we allow our children to get their answers from the media, then we are losing as parents. We are failing as parents. And we will be failing big as people that God has put in that place to take care of his children, because they are not ours. They belong to God. We are just caretakers. And I really wouldn't like to give anybody something of mine to take care of and you spoil it. in the same manner, let's not spoil our kids, but give them the opportunity to talk to us, explain their difficulties to us, and we should advise them as as Christian parents. And if you don't have a Christian way of dealing with the situation, definitely one of your neighbors or one of your friends is a Christian. Venture to that person. Like I always go to Sister Laura.
Yeah, you come
Thank
to me
you.
and I go to Tutu, huh?
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Titu, before I come
Yes.
to you, please. Thank you so, so much, Rebecca. My goodness. I don't even know where to begin. You said so many things. You just blew me away with saying that, when the children come to talk to us, it's like a prayer. Because I was just thinking, if each time we went to God just started giving us the 10 commandments again. You're coming like, hey, God, I need this and that. He just gives you a list of the 10 commandments and sends you off. How are we going to feel? But most often that's how we treat our children, isn't it?
Yes.
So you just said so many wonderful things. If we don't take care to listen and talk to our children, they're going to get the answers from somewhere else. And yes, the social media has all the answers. Their friends have all the answers. Their teachers have all the answers. But do we want to leave the education of our children to those other people? A lot of wisdom in what you said, my dear sister. Anyway, we're just going to take time. I'm going to take time to listen to this broadcast again, definitely. So Tutu, please go ahead.
Everything that Sister Rebecca said is just on point. I just want to add one little thing, like when you is that God treats us as modern people as well. So I think a lot of us parents have to take the children where they are. They're not from 1960, 50 something, right?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
we have to treat them according to time today, and we have to understand that it's a learning process. They make mistakes, and these mistakes are very, very important to make them good and stable, grown-up people. So when they come with you with something that you dislike, use it as a tool to teach your child a certain thing. That's very important. Sister Rebecca, you said it all, and yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, my dear sister. I love that. I love that. We need to, as a parent, at some point I used to think that my role was to prevent my children from ever making mistakes. And because of that, I always try to keep them in a shell, which is not possible. They cannot remain there. But Tutu has made me understand that you need to let those children grow and make their mistakes, because that's the only way that they are going to learn. So that is really powerful. Yes,
you.
Betty. Yes, Betty. Go ahead, Betty.
Say something, Doctor. I think you had a hand up before me. No, you go ahead.
No, it's
Okay. So, Doc, you go ahead, and then Betty
okay.
will
No,
come after.
thank you, Betty. Thank you, Lam. So, I think we are taking a lot from our sister Rebecca and Tutu, and one thing I would like to add is to that question: the role of Christianity in child upbringing. What is Christianity all about? The main message of Christianity is love.
Mm-hmm.
God is love.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at the society today, when you talk my house, my things, and so on, it has to do with a society where love is absent. So I think that the role of Christianity in child upbringing is preparing the society for a better future, in the sense that if you look at the society today with the COVID situation, the lockdown, and how people are so egoistic, the government keeps saying you have to care for others, you have to please take care of the weak. What would have been the situation if all of us we were brought up God-fearing, caring for one another, loving one another as we love ourselves? We will willingly do this. In a recent debate in the German television, one philosopher was trying to explain this, that every society, for every state to survive, you need solidarity, the value of solidarity, you need the love, because to be able to protect the other. So if I'm strong and healthy, don't say, why should I not go out and enjoy my freedom right? No, by going out, I may cause somebody who is not as strong as me to be sick, because I may be carrying that virus in me, but still, because my system is resistant to the virus, and that person may get sick, and that person may lose his life. So, because I'm a Christian, I think of that. I think of others. I avoid that. That is why love as God is very important. That is what we have to give our children. And with that, the state will not have too much to do, because in education, there is this aspect of building the conscience of the child. When we are bringing up people, society, young future citizens who will lead this nation, we have that part of training them to have a good conscience. And Christianity is the basis of a good conscience, of building good conscience for people. And that is what I think every society needs. Secularization is destroying our society, our societies. The love for money instead of loving people is destroying our society. That's why I see the need for Christianity in child upbringing today more than ever before. There was a great priest who once said, God created man to love man, and he created money for men to use money, to create things so that men can use things. But now men love things and use people. But with Christianity, we will not get into that situation, because Christian value is love. When politicians say we don't want religion to be enforced for every society, everybody, the question I'll ask, what is the message of Christianity? It is love. Because even the God who is telling us to love him, he's saying that in another, I know in one letters, I think it's St. Peter's letters, he said that if we say we love God and we hate our neighbor, then we are liars. Because we cannot love God who we don't see and hate our neighbors. So it is not possible. So the basic criteria for loving God is loving our neighbor. So, and to conclude, it's difficult to translate that into English, but maybe Laura, you can do that for me. Our priest was saying that in church one day, that God is not the living God. It's not the loving God. Because if you put it like the loving God, you look at somebody, it's like somebody who has love. No, God himself is love.
Wow.
God is not, it is not a loving God, it is a love. And so because it is not like he's loving us, he has to dwell in us. When he is in us, then we have love. God is in us, is love. And God reaches others through staying in us, and that love can touch others. And these are the values we are supposed to give children. When we give children these values, we will have a peaceful society. We'll have a society that respect lockdown because we think of others. We'll have a society that children are on the street, one person takes them away because the car is coming, because we love one another. That value of solidarity, love for one another will be very strong. That's why I think Christianity in upbringing is amazing.
Wow. 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 I don't know what else to say. God is love. Christianity is love. And if we have love, what else do we need? Sincerely, what else do we need? So, my dear team, you've been amazing. Before we continue, I still have a couple of questions for us. But before we continue, I really want to go through the comments. I'm not going to read all the comments, but there are just a few comments that I want to read, especially those that have questions. Oh, Betty had to say something.
Exactly.
God, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
Before I lose my train of thought, somebody posted something asking about parents who may not be may not have a strong educational background being able to teach their children.
Yes.
They asked if there was a remedy. The comment has disappeared, so I can't see the person's name. And I just wanted to just see if I can answer that question. So at the moment, due to the fact that there are lots of resources out there that can help parents in that situation. So I deal with a lot of parents who have English as a second language, and they face the same kind of difficulties. Their schools usually have very good resources to help. And if you approach their schools, they would normally be they will have a dedicated team of people who would be able to point you in the right direction, give you the resources you need. And also that you have lots of online tutors. I would say at the moment, because lots of people work from home, they're capable of actually, because they're doing distant learning, they can teach more than one child at a time. So if you can find a really good tutor, so it won't be expensive as much as doing one-to-one. If you can find a really good tutor and you know other parents who are in the same boat as you and you all need a tutor, you might be able to get one tutor who will be able to do that for you. So it will be at a reasonable cost to help your children. And yeah, so I wanted to answer that before I move on and say yes, thank you so much, Doctor, for that, for everything you said, and for everyone on the panel, really. And yes, the one thing that we all want to pass on to our children is just that love and empathy for a fellow human being. And yeah, being in lockdown, trying to respect the rules has not been easy. Sometimes they've not understood it. Sometimes even we, because the laws have been so confusing anyway, sometimes we don't know where they were coming or going. But the one thing that we've known and we've said to them repeatedly, and we've stuck with it, is like, we're going to do what the government says, whether we agree with it or not. It's not up to us to decide. But we have to protect other people and we have to protect ourselves. So my son had a birthday party last week. A friend of his invited him to his house. And the current rules don't allow you to visit anybody in the house. So his friend, I had to get in touch with the parents and ask them about this arrangement. And they said, oh yeah, we'll be indoors and everything. And I had to say to the parent, I'm sorry, unfortunately, we cannot do it because the rules don't allow it right now. My son is terribly disappointed. I mean, he was nearly in tears. His friend was disappointed, but we have to come to a mutual agreement that no, it's not the right thing to do. We're not setting the right example for them.
Yes.
And telling them it's okay to break the rule when it suits you. No. So we have to be really strict with ourselves as well and say, look, this is what it is. It's not for us to debate sometimes, but you have to think about consequences for what you do long term as well, not just short term. So in the end, he understood why he couldn't go to this party, and he came to respect the decision. And another thing I wanted to add as well, that as parents, yes, we're not perfect ourselves. We are learning all of this. Most of us are here doing this for the very first time in an environment we never grew up in. And our children know things that we will never know as well. And one of the things I find is just being really honest with them and say, actually, I don't have the answer to that. Why don't we find it together? Actually, I don't know. I've had to tell my students that I teach that, actually, I don't know that. Let me Google it. And they respect me more for that because they see me as a human being. It's not a sign of weakness if you don't do something. None of us knows everything. My husband studied a PhD in physics, and he said one of the most humbling things for him when he got to the end of his PhD was to find out that he knows so much about so very little. And we all know you spend your whole life studying all these years, but for a very, very small bit of knowledge that you know a lot about. But it just made him realize that he is just a speck in the universe, and it's just there to do it like everybody else. None of us knows everything. And like my son once said, when I asked them, one of them asked me if God knew everything. Before I could even answer, I think it was 3 or 4 at the time, he said to his brother, nobody knows everything. Everybody knows something.
Yeah. Wow. Nobody knows everything, but everybody knows something. That's powerful, Betty. And I love what you said about being honest and saying, I don't know. Why don't we research this together? And that's another opportunity of not just not passing on wrong information, but of doing something again with the child, which brings us to the quality time. You get to research something with the child, and there is just another special bonding which results from that. So that's really, really wonderful. So let me just read a few of the comments. We've had amazing comments here. Thank you all so much, our viewers. This is so encouraging, and we're so happy. Someone says this is really educating. That is Blessing Eze. And then a good one, we shouldn't allow the social media to teach them. We should teach them ourselves. And then another comment says, yes, love is everything. And then wait, there was another one here. Father Innocent, who was here with us, he said the dads when we talked about families praying together with the children, he said the dads are always too tired from work, and then the moms are always occupied with putting makeup. And I thought, I was like, Father, are you talking to me? Are you attacking me? So, but there was another question I want us to answer. It came from the audience before we continue. Someone asked, what advice would you give to single parents? We've talked a lot about, mom and dad playing their role and everything. What advice would you give to a single parent? Maybe a mom who is raising her kids by herself, and maybe the dad is not involved in the lives of the children. We have cases like that, right? So what advice would you give to a mom like that? Maybe two of you can handle that. Joy, you want to start? I see you smiling.
Well, it's very difficult. I think if as a single mom, that is why I think that the aspect of solidarity is very important in the society, because we always need help. If you are a single mom, I would like to know, how is the situation? Do you have a brother, an uncle who can, because I think children need role models in their life from the mother side and from the women's side and from the men's side, because we have different roles we play in the child's life. And that is why in that case, maybe coping with their responsibility, that's another question, but like taking care of some emotional, directive, educational aspects of the child's life, I think you could think of an uncle and a brother that can always be there for you, that you can have, that can be communicating with that child, talking with that child, because I think they need that role model who is there to give them some support. When it comes to social, economic aspect, then we have to rely on the social system we are living in to inform yourself with the welfare system of the nation, where you can get support for social support, maybe a child education assistance in terms of resources and in terms of taking care of daycare for the child. So you look at it from the side of the services that the state can provide, the welfare system, and also the role that you can play as a mother, and the feeling you have. This is the point, filling the gap. You have to look for someone to come into the gap of that father, somebody who is reliable, a good friend, a good brother, a good uncle that can always just talk nicely to that child. If it happens too early and you are a Christian, and maybe a Catholic Christian in this case, you want to baptize the child, you look for a very good godfather that can also take that role of talking to the child, playing the role model for the child. That is what I could say for now, but it's not easy.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Rebecca, go ahead.
Yes, I would really love to add to this, because I've been a single mother for quite a period of time when I brought up my two sons on my own. And that was way back in Kenya, where we don't have any social support, like any government support and all that. And I would like to say thank you so much, Dr. Joy, because you've really mentioned most of the things that I did, because I have a brother of mine, he's younger than me, much younger than me, but having grown up with him, or literally keeping him with me, paying his fees and doing everything with him, I had the impression that he has gathered how to be kind of a father. Because we lost our own father when we were much younger, and we only had our mom. And she was there for us, doing everything, being our dad and our mom at the same time, our provider. And I took up the responsibility to help her at a very tender age, and made up my mind that I'll do everything I can to help her. And that when I grow up, and that's exactly what I did. So when I found myself being a single mother as well, with two sons, I actually engaged my brother a lot. So my youngest son even asked my brother once, is their dad? And he said, no, I'm your uncle, So, so it is really important that single mothers, you should have someone who's really very disciplined too.
Yeah.
It must be a very disciplined person and someone who can discipline and show love at the same time. Because you don't want to get an uncle or a brother who's going to hit up your kids all the time. That's not what we want, but we want someone who will correct them with love, show them their mistakes with love. And the most important thing is taking your children to church. That is very, very important, because that's how I manage mostly with my boys back at home, because I made sure they never missed their Sunday school lessons. And it helped me a lot to keep them on track. And don't forget that most of the time I was working in Southern Sudan. So I wasn't at home with my children, but my brother who was there and the house girl, I told them never to fail to take them to church, because I knew that God is the only way and the only father who happens to be my father and at the same time the father to my children. So if you bring your children to church and make sure that they are taught the ways of God, nothing will ever go wrong. They might wander a bit from it, but they will definitely come back, because that is where their roots are placed. That is where their existence is. And yes, as I can see my sister Tayo is here, we both Sunday school teachers, and that's what we tell our children in church. Your father and mother is important to you, but God is more important, because God is also their father as much as he is also your father. So Christian way, Christian background is the best way for single mothers to go, because no matter how tough the going gets along the way, which will definitely do, God is always your root. No matter how much the storm shakes these children along the way, their anchor is firmly rooted in Christ, that they will never be shaken completely off, because they are strong there. And yes, as single mothers, and be strong. I know it is very tough to be the mother and father at the same time. Most of the time, we tend to compromise a lot, thinking that by compromising and doing what they want you to do for them is showing them love. But no, remember, Proverbs 13:24 said, spare a rod and spoil a child. Love them. It might be so hard love. Yes, go for the tough love. Tomorrow when they grow up, they'll appreciate it so much. Thank you. Sister Laura, you're muted.
Oh my God, I had to mute myself when my boys decided to come and break down the door. Mommy, we are hungry. Mommy, we are hungry. So thank you so much, Rebecca. Your story was very, very touching. And our sister who asked the question is already, you know, she really responded, and she's so thankful that you and Joy took up the time to give this advice. You talk about tough love, and sometimes that's just the way to go. And if we look at our own upbringing, there are times when our parents dealt with us that way and we thought they were being too mean. But today, we are thankful that they were tough on us in some of those aspects, isn't it? So thank you very much. And of course, we always have brothers and sisters. We have uncles who can always fill in the gap. You know, if the dad is absent or stuff like that, there are definitely always people. When we pray and ask God, definitely He's going to lead us to the right people. Thank you so very much. And thank you also, our dear audience, for your questions and your engagement. It keeps us going, you know, it keeps us here also. We know that we are not just talking, but we are, you know, we are making an impact. All right, dear panel, I would like to go to the next question, which is maybe a bit different. You know, we grew up in Africa. We've talked a lot about our African upbringing, you know, just do it because I said you should do it and stuff like that. But we are here in Europe where we see the other side of it, you know. Yeah, what do you want? What did you want to tell me? Why did you do that? And stuff like that. So there is a big difference. That's what I want to learn. And there's a big difference between the African upbringing that we were used to, what we got, and the European way or the Western way of bringing up children. So what, in your opinion, which one in your opinion is the better one? And is it possible to find a balance? So I'm going to begin with Betty, and then Dr. Joy will answer also. Betty, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, this is a very big question. To even, it's really hard to even say which one is better, which isn't better. I couldn't answer that with a yes or no answer. I could only say my own mother, who was working in the UK as a nurse when she had us, she was pretty much, although she was married, we come from a polygamous, she was married to a polygamist. So in all intents and by all intents and purposes, she was a single mom. And because my dad obviously had lots of different commitments with his other wives and family and children. So my mom literally raised us by herself, with my dad occasionally coming. But when she was in the UK as a single parent, one of the things that triggered her sometimes was when she worked, and some of her, as a mental health nurse, her job sometimes took her to work in prison situations with mental health patients. And she was shocked by the amount of the number of Black people that she had to treat and deal with, and the way they got treated by the system. She could see a system that was just unfair towards Black people. And every time she worked with those children, she was seeing her own children. She decided the best thing to do was to send us home to Cameroon. We will go there, grow with extended family. And she did actually give up her job and move to Cameroon so that she could stay with us for a while. But then she had to come back to continue her training. So she spent 10 years of her time in Cameroon. And she was determined that we will be brought up in Cameroon. Because she knew the system will not, it was not designed to favor a single parent, never mind. Black people, of all people, she understood it. And for her, there was only one solution: go back home. So that's what she did. We all grew up back home. So we came back here only when we were teenagers. And so in that respect, I got to experience what it was like to grow up, and I understood my mom's reasons for doing it. And I grew up with grandmother, grandparents. So I had a very different upbringing to what my own children are having now. Both sets of their grandparents are dead. They don't know what it's like to have a relationship with a grandparent. I have younger siblings who are busy working, so we don't really have that community as we did when we were growing up. So it's hard to compare. It's chalk and cheese. You're left now with this situation where you're trying to create a village for your children, and it's just you. And the pressures of having to be uncle, grandmother, grandparent, auntie, keep a marriage going, the pressures are enormous. And they manifest in several ways. We find ourselves arguing about things that normally we wouldn't do. Normally you would have family actually referee to these things, and it actually keeps your behavior in check. But sometimes it's just you. The responsibility is all solely down on you to be parent to yourself, parent to your children, grandparents to them. And the responsibility is sometimes you just have to sit back and think, how do I deal with this? How can I draw on my own upbringing to help me deal with this situation? And I really say, growing up in Cameroon gave me the kind of strength and fortitude that perhaps I wouldn't have had if I was here and my mom was working full time and I wasn't able to have that kind of connection with family. I mean, I can only say that give us something that, because my husband also grew up in Cameroon, he was one of 9, gave us something, that community spirit, give us something that keeps us going, helps us to overcome all these challenges. And of course, growing up in a Christian home as well, that has had a big impact. And as the sister was alluding to, my mom also, like I said, she was like you, bringing us up, working full time, my dad only occasionally coming in. She always made sure that if she had to travel back to the UK for whatever reason, she made us stay with families who sometimes couples who had very high moral standards, who were very good. And one of those families, one of them is a good friend and classmate of mine. And I can say to you that her parents were my role models. They literally inspired me to want to get married and have the family that I have. literally, and my friend may not even know this because we don't talk that much these days, but her parents were my biggest inspiration.
Wow.
Wow.
My mom always made sure that she did that with lots of people. She always made sure that she had a whole network of people, you know, that she could rely on, really good people that when she was not there, stepped in and taught us things that she wasn't able to teach us herself. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That is awesome. That is awesome, Betty. You touched on something which, you know, how, as parents, we need to know the kind of people that our kids are interacting with. And we're not just talking about their friends or their age mates, also from our own generation, even our own friends. We need to know what impact that our friends, even our acquaintances, can have on our children, and we need to act accordingly. So that's very, very important. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Like you said, you know, there is no good or bad. There is no one which is better. But let us hear what Dr. Joy Alemazong has to say about that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Betty. I'm so impressed because for each question, it's we always have the practical example to use to answer this, which makes it very, very authentic and easy to understand and for our listeners. That's why I'll try to take another approach again now, so that to see if I could add anything to that. If you look at the parenting style in Europe, in America, there are some characteristics that you can take out of them. And it is like you have the authoritative way of bringing up children. Actually, those doing research in parenting, they have created clusters of this parenting style. And you have the cluster which is authoritative, meaning that the parents, they take good care of their children, they have a high level of affection, but they are flexible, they democratic, they discuss with their children, exchange with them, but they set clear standards, and those standards are very high. But at the same time, they make sure that they provide guidelines and assistance, and they're very close to their children to make sure that those children can meet those standards and meet those results. They set boundaries and they are strict with those boundaries. Nevertheless, they are still very open to communication and have high expectation. Then you have, that is authoritative. There is still the authoritarian cluster. With this one, yes, authoritarian, the difference between authoritative and authoritarian is that while the authoritative style has very high level of warmth and closeness to the children. With the authoritarian one, there is a distance between the children and their parents. That warmth is not too much there, but there are very strict rules, expectations too are high, but it's just that they are little warmth, and then they are rigid. There is no democratic exchange and open communication that this, daddy, I see it like this. Oh, so you no, there everything is coming from one way. Then you have the permissive style. Here you have fewer rules, low expectation. Even when the rules are there, they are not consistent. Today it is like this. They set boundaries today, tomorrow it's a different boundary. They just behave as if they are, sometimes it's like the parents and the children are the same friends. And then parents try to avoid confrontation with the children. Sometimes they don't correct because they just want to keep away from confrontation. And then the last cluster is they are just uninvolved. This style is absent, neglect, uninterested, passive, a bit emotionally detached, self-absorbed with themselves, inconsistent, and then they don't set boundaries. Now, if you look at all these clusters, you will realize that we have to move between authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolved. Because sometimes we have to let them, give them the gap. Just behave as if we don't care, as if we are not interested. Okay? If I may say this, I don't know if my son is listening. Sometimes when he goes out and we say 9 o'clock and it is past, because it happened 2-3 times and I realize when he comes, when the child is coming, he's prepared for the argument. So after a certain time, when he comes, I just say hello. I don't say anything. So it will be like all that preparation was in vain.
Yeah.
But I find time days after to go to the room and say, you see, that day you came in like that, you remember I have told you, if you are there and it is past 9, you told us you'll be back at home at 9, call us, let us know. It was not good not to do that. He was not prepared for that, so he was listening. He was so we need a bit of all this, and that is why I realized that most of the times, sometimes, nevertheless, if I want to say there is a difference between Africa and Europe, I think that Africa is a bit more authoritarian and Europe is a bit more authoritative. Nevertheless, that is just a very broad way of looking at it, because I know, but it would be wrong to say that we are absolutely authoritarian, because the level of warmth that we experience there is too high, and authoritarian is really missing in warmth. So what I think is the balance. I think some of us who lived in both societies, we have the advantages of taking the good from all the sides. In Africa, what I really appreciate is the values, the value of respect. Okay, that is something we are trained from very little age, that respect is something very precious in the society. That is what is missing sometimes in European upbringing. Okay, we should not mistake respect with when children give us their opinion. That's not disrespect. Accepting different opinion and explaining is important. That is what sometimes we are missing in Africa. That when a child say, "No, daddy, it was not like this," you say no to your father. No, that is not disrespect. So difference of opinion, take time to allow to explain and tell them. Sometimes I tell them, I use a small example. Say, listen to your parents, because they say in our countries back home that what an old person can see sitting down, a child cannot see standing up. Or I use the Bible verse that honor your parents and so that your days may be well with you, live longer. And then I tell my child, don't play with those shoes, don't run out here. He didn't listen to me, he ran and fell. I said, do you remember what I told you? This is just an example, and it is happening like that all, so they will understand that. So I think you need a bit of that. We need that authoritarian approach a bit to set boundaries rigid, but at the same time, depending on the age and the situation, you also need to close your eyes to let I was reading the other day, somebody said, sometimes
I can hear you.
Are we all back? There was a small internet.
Yes,
internet
I think
problem.
we were all out. Now we are back. Now we are back.
Yes, a psychologist was saying that sometimes don't get into conflict with your child because he put the cup on the wrong position. So sometimes we have to let go. So I think there is a balance, and that balance is us, and that balance is the father and the mother. Sometimes it's the father who is very authoritarian, the mother is authoritative and permissive. Sometimes some mothers are the authoritarian one, the parents bring in, the father comes in with the permissive approach, the authoritarian approach, and when the child is getting older, you have to be a bit uninvolved.
Yes.
So that is what I think.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Joy, I don't know what to say. I really lack words. You broke it down. You broke it down for us. Authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, uninvolved. And we need a little bit of each of that, to be able to get that balance. Not an easy task, but definitely by God's grace, like Rebecca will remind us, it is definitely possible. And I love something that you said about not, when your son comes in late, sometimes you just say hi to him. and you let him be. And then some days later, you go to talk to him. It's so important to find the right time. So it's not just about saying something or ignoring it. Sometimes things need to be said, but they also need to be said at the right time. Because if you talk to your son at that time, definitely it's going to be a fight. But when when you get the right time, then you grab his attention, and it's good. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so very much. Look, we are already 1 hour 30 minutes into the show. I will just ask the last, I don't know if this is the last question, but this is to you, Tutu.
Yes.
What do you think are some of the parenting mistakes that we are making today?
Now at this during the COVID pandemic, okay.
During the COVID and even generally.
Yeah. Well, it's thinking that we're all in the same house. That's enough. You have to actively spend time with each other. Being under the same roof is not enough. That's one. Second of all, talking. We need to talk. Communicating with each other. Finding out what each other's doing. Yes. And that's really, really important. Noticing if someone's not feeling right. Noticing when someone needs a bit of space. That's also important. The time we spend together is one thing, but also leaving each other a little bit of room, because you can't be, in one spot the whole time, because yes, you need space. That's very, very important. And what else can I say? Yeah, and with the children, as I say, just watching what they do, and we have to be creative now as parents, looking for different things that we can do to entertain them, so we don't lose them to outside, because if you have teenagers, they'll still go outside. Lose them to social media, because you have to understand the moment your child focuses on social media, you're giving up the parenting.
Yes.
You see, you're giving up the parenting. So you have to be very careful. So you focus on that a lot. So don't give that out too much. This let me just say this treasure of being a parent, because it is a treasure. It is a role, as Sister Rebecca said, that God has given it to us, and we should take it seriously. Yeah. Yeah. So that's all I can think of right now. Things that we can do, and also make good food. Make things nice and play. Or if you dance, and I'm serious, it's just the little things. Dance.
Yeah.
And your child drawing. Let's draw. Let's make family T-shirts, as Laura said. Or let's do. There's so many things that you can do, and yeah. And as I said, talk a lot. And if one of them is going through something or heard a certain news, talk about the situation. What is COVID? And as Sister Rebecca said, there's so many versions of, how the world is going to be in the next couple of years. Talk with your children and give them the right direction. That's very, very important. That's all I can say to that right now.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you so much, Tutu. Thank you so much, Tutu. You just took me off guard with your first mistake. You said that sometimes we think that living under the same roof is enough. I always joke, when my husband went to Cameroon, and I was joking with you guys that my roommate has gone, Sometimes we think that having a roommate or sharing a roof with someone is enough, right? But you need to have a relationship. If you're not having a relationship, then definitely you're just housemates or you're just roommates. That's so wonderful. And of course, finding time to spend quality time together, good, but at the same time, giving each other some space. And then also,
sorry, one more last thing. It's really, really important. We have to respect that we're not all the same. That's so important. We're not all the same. Some people are just need certain kind of treatment, just want it a bit quieter, just have a little bit of understanding, respect, and compassion, and you know what I mean. That's important.
Yes. Yes. I have 5 kids, and it's amazing how different each of them are. Each of them, they have their personality. What works for Jason will not work for Janice. So for each person, you have to be constantly thinking, how am I going to do it for her? How am I going to do it for him? And that. It's really wonderful. And thanks again, our dear viewers, for all your encouragement. We are so happy that we have you with us, keeping us company. Unfortunately, we cannot read all the comments, but definitely We are reading them. I just mean that we cannot read them here live, but we are reading them. Eze says, Blessing says, I'm already reconstructing myself. Thanks so much for the wisdom. We are taking notes and things like that. You know, when we set rules as parents, we must play by the rules ourselves, because our children are so smart. They are watching us, you know, and they are listening. And then a Blessing says, Laura, thank you for inviting me to this. It's like putting light in our life. Oh, isn't that amazing? And it's thanks to you, dear panel. Laura did nothing. She's just been here making noise, but you are the real experts. You're the ones who have been putting that light, you know, into the lives of all our viewers today. So thank you so very much. Dr. Joy, I'm not going to let you go.
Okay.
I have another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the Bible tells us that the husband is the head of the family, isn't it?
Yes.
And it also results in the dad also being, you know, having that spiritual role, that spiritual guide of the family.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the dad also has the role of, you know, winning the bread for the family, you know, going out to get the cash and all these things. And most often, dads are, you know, they spend hours out of the house. They are working, doing their part-time job, as you would call it. And most often, they are absent from the kids' lives. You know, that you just see them in the morning, maybe if they can say bye-bye before they go to school, and later they come back, maybe they are even sleeping or they're just too tired. So is that enough? Just being the breadwinner of the family, is that enough? What role do fathers have to play in the parenting, in the upbringing of the children?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to put it this way. Being the breadwinner, as important as it can be in the family, is a very, very minor, it has a very minor role to play as a father, unfortunately. It is your role, the role model you're playing, that is important. The breadwinner is not, anybody can be a breadwinner, but we need fathers, we need role models, we need pillars, family pillars, and you play that role. Sometimes because we learn a lot when we are bringing up our children. We see what works, what doesn't work, and sometimes you realize if we can succeed to have a meal together once in a week, because I'm away, I have to do everything to make sure that that is possible. What happens when we are having the meal? What are the discussions with? Sometimes you make, so you cannot say it's this lack of time. Sometimes you make the supper long. Everybody sits at the table. You talk and explain things. You ask stories. How was the week? This is what we need. And by so doing, you transfer some of those values to the children. This is important. There are some. Sorry that I have to always try to give a lot of examples about what.
No, that's what makes it special. That's what makes it relatable. Yes.
One psychologist also said that as parents, as fathers, we need qualities, certain qualities, and some of them include being humorous. How, you know, it's not only most of us here, we know that our children like to spend time alone in their room and so on. Sometimes I'll just knock and tell my daughter that I'm on a visit now, since you don't come to the living room. She will laugh, and then we'll start talking. And then I realized, so when I read that, I said, wow, I have to increase my sense of humor, because it brings life to the family, and the children need that. Sometimes when they do something wrong, I try to find a funny way to put it, then they will laugh, and you know that it was wrong. So it is, and then we have to be flexible, but we have to be attuned. We have to be attuned. We challenge the children. You are talking to who like that with your father? How do you oppose your father or oppose your mother? At the same time, there is this African proverbs which says, an inquisitive child never goes astray. Yet, when they ask questions, you ask too many questions. It is wrong. So when we listened, and then that short time that we spend at home, if we are most of the time away, we should listen. And if they are not ready to speak, we should ask questions.
Yes.
Or we tell them our own stories.
Yes.
We tell them our own stories. It is very important. I have my father as my role model. We have talked about being role model, starting from the handy, mobile phones, how I cannot be holding the phone all the time and telling my child not to. It is difficult. And sometimes we pull the parent card, but I'm a parent. That doesn't help the child to explain. A lot of science has proven that some children, about 80% of what children do is what they see us doing, and only 20% what we tell them. So, when I read that, I was so happy, and then I thought, because as a little child, all the things I saw my father doing, carrying my junior siblings, we were 8. When my mother comes back with the youngest one, after putting to bed, at 4 a.m., I'll get up to go and use the restroom. I see him walking in the living room so that the child can sleep and my mother can have some rest. I told myself as a little child in primary school that when I grow up, I want to do like that. Or when he was around the town, we went for Christmas shopping. A child was crying and wanting a toy, and the mother said, "We don't have money for that." My father just looked at the price. It was just about 2,000 something francs. He just put that amount of money, went and put it on top of the toy and say, "Happy Christmas." As a child, I told myself that I wanted to do something like that. And I thought of it when I went to buy Christmas tree. A child wanted a bigger tree, and the mother said, "It is too expensive." I asked the woman how much. She said, it was 10 euros difference. I gave the woman and she said, "Thank you." And I said, "Thank my father." So, you understand? These are things. So when I read that, I knew that is what was happening. So parents, fathers, we don't have an excuse. If we are working a lot, when we come home, we may go to wash the car, we may go to fuel it, we carry the children during that time, we spend time with them. So there are a lot of ways. We have to find ways to take good care of our children and empower them. Tell them, for example, those of us who are black skinned, we know the challenges of racism. Look for ways to make them have that self-confidence. Steve Biko, I never forget, he said, the greatest weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.
The mind, yeah.
Yes. So how, if we allow our minds to be manipulated, you're black, then the oppressor will have the upper hand. So we have to train them to build them the stable mind, the self-confident mind. Or I tell my daughter at one time that, "Oh, you think the others say black and so on. You remember when your friend was in Mallorca, when she came back, she was almost competing with you that she is almost as brown as you. Black is beautiful." She felt good about that. So we have to look for nice stories to empower them, but at the same time we set boundaries as parents. Those few times that you are at home as a father, those things that the child has been crossing line when mommy was saying, you make sure that it is respected consequently, that you set that boundary. So you create the balance between authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolved. And then altruism. We try to be active in our society as a father. When you come back, maybe you are good in sports, you can be training a small group of children, going there, investing time, social involvement, a voluntary involvement. This is good. So that with the Christian value of love and you showing example through voluntary involvement, the children will learn to serve their communities, learn to be there for their communities. And sports is very important.
Yes.
Sport is very important. When you come, if you have only Saturday at home, you may find time to go and walk, do for a family walk. I know children are sometimes there, but you can say, let's walk to that point and then we'll take that corner, we'll go and eat ice. then the younger ones will come. So we cannot just hide behind the excuse of walking. "Oh, I'm a busy father." When you are that time that you're at home, please, even if it is Saturday and Sunday, you could schedule the time so that you create jokes, you spend time, you empower them, you listen to them, you ask them questions, you create structure so that you roam between, you move around those different clusters which we talked about. Thank you so much.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God, Joy. Awesome. This is amazing. And I hope that Paul was watching. I'm just whispering. I hope he was listening. It's amazing. Thank you so very much. And guess what? Let me tell you what some of our viewers are writing. So Linda says, Dr. Linda from UK. She says, "Nice one, Doc. My teenage son is always in his room. I need to use that term. I'm on a visit. And of course, I will knock first and wait to be allowed in." And then Blessing says, "Yes, official visit. Very official visit." And when you were talking, I was just thinking, oh God, I need to visit Chantel more often in her queendom, you know, because she's always there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's so easy to say it than done. So
I know.
what I'm
I know,
saying
but at least
something that I'm struggling to do also.
Yes, having that in mind. So, my dear panel, sincerely, I think that we could stay here for another 1 hour. I would not even notice it. You know, I've been standing now for 2 hours and I didn't even notice it. That's how wonderful and amazing you have been. And even the comments, oh my God, we have so many comments. Everyone is just so impressed. Great explanation, sir. If I have one regret in my life, is that I had all our kids born in the Western world. Yes, it is not easy, but definitely we can always make the best of it. And you know, we need to make rules and walk by them. And you know, God is the answer. God is love. You know, Sister Rebecca, we agree with you. Faith and God in your life can never go wrong because God is love indeed. So many comments, such inspirational speakers. Thank you all for your candor. Great job, Laura and team. And then another person says, great discussion. I'm going to be implementing a couple of things I just learned. So can we just round up? I think that we have really done a great job. I think if we stayed here till tomorrow, we would still not conclude, right? No. So maybe this is a chance to invite you for another session. Yes, Rebecca, go ahead.
Let me just add one thing that also worked pretty good with me. From the time COVID started, from the time homeschooling and home office started, one day with my daughter and nephew, we agreed that each will say which kind of food they love cooking, or which kind of food they love the most. And I had a piece of paper and pen for everybody, my husband also, and everyone was supposed to write down the kind of food they love the most. And then I said, okay, you're going to make that food that you love the most for the rest of the family. So you're also supposed to choose the day that they want to cook. And we made a timetable that is until now in the kitchen, where who is cooking when and what are you cooking, so that the parents can go for the ingredients. So that is also one way of getting them involved with this COVID lockdown and its business.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that is wonderful. So there are some questions here. Someone is asking, Sister Laura, why did you invite men to this? I did invite them. Hello, I invited them, and I want to believe that some of them are listening. If not, we are coming again. Another person says, this team has to come again, please. So, Betty, Joy, Tutu, Rebecca, are you going to come again?
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes. So we have it on camera, so they'll be coming again. And then someone asked me, very interesting talk. Will there be more in the future? Yes, there'll be more in the future. And someone just joined late. Speaking Grace TV, you're welcome. Better late than never. And there will be more of this. So I thank you so much. So dear team, I just want to give each of you a chance to round up, you know, just say a final concluding word, maybe some advice, some practical tips, or just a final word, just 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah, so that we just go around and then we round up so that by 8 o'clock we can say officially bye-bye. So let's go. Betty, please.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much, Laura. You've done such an amazing job putting this together. I mean, I appreciate the work, the technology, and everything that goes into it. The run up to this, I mean, people may not realize she got us all together. We did test shows, we did So, I mean, I felt very relaxed and calm because otherwise I would have been quite nervous this life. But Laura has put us all at ease. You've done an amazing job, and I really want to commend you for doing this. You are amazing. I mean, just putting all the resources together, I know how hard, I know it's not easy. You've definitely done a lot of research on these things, so you know your stuff. So thank you. And yeah, thank you for having us. Thank you for giving us the chance to share. To talk is therapeutic for us as well, especially when we talk about all the struggles we're going through. Some people might relate to others better than others on the panel, but I just hope that what I've shared, because it all comes from the heart and it all comes from my experience, my own life experience, that if somebody can relate to it and it helps them in some way to balance what we're finding challenging in this part of the world, then I feel like I'm really doing something useful. And yeah, because I've been through so much, and it's not often you get the platform to actually share with people. So I'm really grateful for this. And yeah, and one last thing, and one of the things I did with my children over lockdown was we started writing a recipe book. So we started writing recipe books for them because I believe it or not, I didn't know how to cook when I got married. So I was determined that my kids will not leave my house without being able to feed themselves. So I started writing a recipe book, and I've said to them that will be my living gift to them when they're leaving this house. They will not go through what I went through, and especially when I was at university by myself. So yeah, they have been learning how to bake, cook everything, how to peel garlic. So yeah, it's been a very wonderful project, and we're still working on it actually. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. You see, that's a wonderful tip. Make a recipe book with your
Yeah.
kids. And guess what? The last time I was doing the test run with Betty, her daughter came and told her, Mommy, let's go. We need to do chocolate cake. So definitely she's doing a great job teaching the children. And Olivia is 3 years old, isn't it? Already knows how
Yes.
to do chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Yes.
And big
So,
bread.
Dr. Joy, what would you say in conclusion, please?
Well, I would just like to support what my sister Betty just said. Thank you so much for putting this. I think from what we experience and what others have written, it tells us how relevant this topic is. It's a very relevant topic. Unfortunately, it's one of the neglected topics. So I'm happy that you did it. When we were talking, was it on Monday or Tuesday? I was still wondering how will it be like? Will I have time? Will I be able? And with the birthday of my son, I was still a bit unsure of myself how it will be like. But I'm happy because I've learned a lot from great parents in the panel, and also I just want to say to all the mothers and the fathers that. We need one another. We need a foundation of love. One thing which drives me as a parent and a father is the fact that we have to break those stereotypes about what is the role of the man, what is the role of the women, and work hard to create a stable family by by doing those chores at home with our children. I always insist when I'm talking with friends and others that doing those chores and assisting the children as a father, changing diaper, washing them up, and it is not helping somebody. It is building your relation to your child, and that is what we should try to do and seize the opportunity when they are 16, they start searching for time for themselves and their friend will start feeling lonely. So enjoy those moments when they are youth, spend it with them, and you don't spend it with them by just sitting, it's by playing with them, by bathing them. So by doing that, it will help us create a balance at home and it will make us happy. So thank you very much. And one of the last thing I want to add is that we should all work hard to make sure we have a very good eating habit. Eating habits, I've realized, is also very important in health because they say if you don't make food your medicine, medicine will become your food. So those are the things that we can work together as parents to bring up our children with. The food they eat, the spiritual food is God and the teachings of God. The physical food should be healthy food, food also. Thank you so much, and I look forward in exchanging with you and learning more in the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. Definitely, there's going to be a part 2 of this. Thank you so very much. And dads, parents, we need to really get involved. And Dr. Joy, everyone is talking about paying their kids a visit in their rooms. So you can imagine this is an issue that we are all struggling with, isn't it? So thank you very much. And I love also what you said about, eating the right food. If you don't make food your medicine, medicine will become your food. That is powerful, powerful, powerful. Yes. So Rebecca, please, can you just give us a few words to round up, please?
Like my brother and sister, I would like to say thank you so much, Sister Laura, for this idea, for putting us up together and giving us an opportunity to share our experiences with our other sisters out there, sisters and brothers out there, sorry. And yes, and thank you, sisters and brothers, too, for sharing your comments with us, because I made mistakes bringing up my kids, very many mistakes. And if someone would ask me, what would you love to do the most? Right now, I would say I want to take the time back and make it better for Humphrey and Brian, because I tended to be the iron woman, being daddy and mommy at the same time.
Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah. So despite the fact that I was tough on you two, I know you're watching, I still loved you and I still love you so much. And that's why I was tough on you. And I'm happy to see the fruits of my toughness, because when I visit you guys and you cook, I enjoy. And I love being in places. So there's also some goodness in it. And yeah, as my brother said, let's watch what we eat. I'm so good in that, because when it comes to the other side of Christianity, as I put it always, let's get lost and allow our children to get lost in Christ, because that is the best place to be lost in. And in the kitchen, I can also make some magic out of some ingredients and people can enjoy. And my take is always, whenever we are at home, let's make sure that we sit at the table with our children, eat and discuss. Ask them questions and allow them to ask you questions. Remember, there's no stupid question. No matter what they ask you, don't downlook on them. Answer it as mature and loving as possible. Mm-hmm. My last word to every parent out there is from Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, teaching him to seek God's wisdom and will for his abilities and talents. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Train up a child in the way they should go. When they grow old, they will not depart from it. I think we all can agree to that. So, dear Sister Tutu, can you please round up for us, please?
Yes, thank you very much. You've all said wonderful things, very inspiring, and I feel very confident being here today. I have so much positive information. Anyway, I would like to say that one thing that Sister Rebecca mentioned that she does with her family is what we do. Since COVID, I get my children together, we sit at a table, I make sure I go out and buy something nice to eat, a snack, or I bake a cake or something of the sort, and we sit down and we have a session that we call discussion. And we discuss on things that we wouldn't normally talk about. I use this as a technique to find out how they're thinking, they find out how each other think, so we understand each other better. Because at the end of the day, from all the things we've said today, it's about togetherness. Yeah. Being together, loving each other under the same roof, understanding each other. And that's one thing that I think it's very, very important, that I think that is even more now during this pandemic. We sit down and we purposely discuss. Very important. I thank you all so much for this wonderful information and all the motivation that you've given us and the listeners out there. And Laura, to you too, especially for organizing this. I am very, very happy. I'm going to sleep nice tonight. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Tutu. And just wonderful. Please let me just read some comments, because there are so many wonderful comments coming in now towards the end. So Linda says, thank you to all the panelists. I felt like I knew you all and connected with you with all your stories. The time flew by, and yes, I could listen to you guys all night. Isn't that wonderful? And Blessing says, thank you, Proudly Africans. And another one says, wow, was so amazing for me to participate. I have had good lessons. And Shanti, welcome, Shanti. She says, looks like this was an amazing discussion. I will be watching in the replay. And Mirabel says, please, did anyone note the different parenting clusters? Yes, we did learn a lot, and we took note of that. Giselle says, this is what we need for the growth of the education of our families and children. We need more in the future, please. I thank you all for this great teaching. Definitely, we're going to be coming back with more of this. Thanks to the panelists, have taken some tips like visiting my kid in the room. Thank you, Christy, for that. And Shanti again says, yes, we need a foundation of love in the family and breaking the stereotypes. And I just love this one. This is for you. She says, Betty, that's so funny. I remember our days in Cameroon. You never liked the kitchen. You see what it cost you? Thanks for all you've shared today. And someone says, Tutu, you did a great job. Thanks to all the panelists have taken tips. And Sister Rebecca, thank you. Kudos, Betty, on your cookbook. I can't imagine you ever being a bad cook. And Judith says, thanks. I'm immensely grateful to the crew. And Lillian says, thanks, Doc. With a sense of humor, you can never go wrong with the children. That is so true. Thanks, Betty, for your insightful contributions. Laura, mwah, that's what somebody says. And then Bernadette, hi, Bernadette. She says, great message from the panelists. You are awesome. Thank you all so much. I learned a lot. And amen, amen, amen. So, dear Betty, dear Joy, dear Rebecca, dear Tutu, I truly lack words. Sincerely, I lack words for each of you, because it is less than a week that I had the idea, you know, just the idea of putting this together. And believe me, I didn't know. I just knew that we need to do we had to do something on parenting, because I heard the stories that happened in the USA about a boy killing his mom, and I just thought, parenting, we need some enlightenment on parenting. You know, what is going wrong? What is happening? And I got in touch. You were the 4 people who came to my mind spontaneously, and I got in touch with the 4 of you, and each of you said yes without blinking. That meant a lot to me. That meant a lot to me. And you made time for the test runs. You went through the plans and everything. And so this is our work. We are a wonderful team. We put all of this together, and you can hear from the comments, you have really, really impacted lives. Some children are going to get visits from their parents today in their rooms. Some families are going to start eating together, family time, cooking together. Some are going to start making cookbooks. You know, they're going to start compiling cookbooks. Some parents are finally going to sit down and watch Sunday services with their children and explain things to them. And most importantly, I really believe that after this talk of today, many parents, if we have not been doing so, we are going to start listening to our children, listening to them, allowing them talk to the end. And that is starting with me. Start listening to them. It can be really overwhelming when you have a number of them, and when you have to work at the same time, when you have to teach them. But God's grace is sufficient, and He's going to see us through. I am so, so happy. I wish I could hug all of you, like really hug all of you. But just accept it, okay? Just accept the virtual hug. And I will be saying a special prayer for each of you this night.
Thank you so
and
much.
we look forward to our next edition. You all are amazing. God bless you. God bless your families, your children, and everything. And thanks to all those who stayed with us. 27 people still viewing after 2 hours. That says a lot. That says a lot. Thank you all so much for staying with us, for commenting, for asking questions, for saying all these wonderful things. We couldn't have done it without you. And we're not going to fail you. We're going to come again with the second part of this same topic and with more interesting topics which are relevant to our community.
Thank you.
God bless you. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Let's meet backstage,
Bye-bye.
please.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everyone. Ciao.
Bye.
We love
Ciao.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Go to backstage.